Now that we know what the 2022 49ers roster is going to look like, let's get back into season mode. Start to look at weeks 1 through 17. How do the 49ers compare against the other teams on the schedule? What are the 49ers' outlook for the 2022 season? Coming up on today's Locked On 49ers.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker with you at BD Peacock at Eric_Crocker. Thanks for making us your first listen here every day on the Locked On Podcast Network. Today's episode brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. We're going to get a little deeper into week 1 next week, Croc, and who knows what will happen over the course of Labor Day weekend. I hope everyone has a very nice weekend. I'm going to be doing a couple fantasy drafts. I'm sure there's a lot of fantasy drafters out there. But, it'll be week 1 mode next week, and we'll talk a little bit about the Bears game in week 1 today. But I want to get a little deeper because I hadn't really looked at the schedule since it first came out. Now that we know what the 49ers roster looks like, I think we have a good idea of a lot of these teams and all their rosters as well coming into the season. So let's get back into season mode here and look at the 49ers outlook and how we think the 49ers can do this year. And I'm pumped for the 49ers. They're going to be one of the more fun teams in the NFL. And look, aside from the Garoppolo and Trey Lance stuff, it's a fun team to cover because they're competitive.
I was going to say, super storylines surrounding the 49ers. They've been a big-time topic throughout the offseason with the dynamic of Trey Lance and the expectations of this team and bringing Jimmy Garoppolo back or I don't want to say bring him back because technically he never left, but having Jimmy Garoppolo currently on this team is something that a lot of people didn't expect to see, but it has definitely made things a little bit more interesting. So 49ers, I feel like for the most part with their roster, probably in a better spot than even last year. Some unfortunate injuries to start the season, and we'll kind of get into that. But I think 49ers are in a really good place right now.
I think the schedule bodes well for the 49ers even if they slow start, like even if Trey Lance is kind of like, all right, get some early season jitters, work out some of these kinks, right? And if the 49ers start slow, which they have, they started slow last year before turning it on and ended up in the NFC Championship game. And obviously a new starting quarterback this year, but at the Chicago Bears in week 1, there's some great storylines in this game. It's an awesome way to start the season. It's on the road at Chicago. You've got Justin Fields on the other side, who was one of the players that a lot of people I liked Fields a little better than Trey Lance in the draft, right? And a lot of people did. And so I think there's going to be some overreactions in this game either way, because for the Chicago fans that are a little bit worried about what they saw with Justin Fields as a rookie, I know there's a new coaching staff there in Chicago, but if the 49ers go to Chicago in their house and blow them out and Justin Fields looks terrible, they're going to be going crazy. Justin Fields, they're going to be calling him Bustin' Fields again, right? And he's going to be this huge bust.
Is that what they were calling him last year? Bustin' Fields?
I think it's not really Bears fans. I think it's fans trying to get under Bears fans' skin. I've seen the term Bustin' Fields.
That's tough.
Yeah,
I mean, it's actually pretty clever, but it's a little corny, but
it's corny and built. You hear it once, you're like, okay. You hear it again, you're like, yeah, it's corny. But a lot is riding on this season for the Bears, and he doesn't have a ton of talent around him, so it's going to be tough. And we'll get into some of those matchups specifically further on in the week. But the number one thing is they've got a rookie 5th round tackle that they like in Braxton Jones, and he's a nice draft pick. It looks like he's won the job at left tackle. But Nick Bosa versus rookie 5th round Braxton Jones, even if he's going to have a pretty good career, that's a bad matchup for
not just that. 1. You see who they just claimed?
What's that?
Did you see who the Bears just claimed?
No.
They claimed Alex Leatherwood.
Oh, there you go. I didn't think he'd get claimed because of his high contract. First rounder salary. I thought he was going to clear waivers, then a team would sign him, but the Bears didn't want to wait. It looks like they're going to claim Leatherwood. He's not going to start left tackle, though. I think he's probably going to end up playing right tackle or guard for the Bears.
He has played a lot of right tackle, but not very good. I mean, how bad do you have to be to be a top 20 pick, right? I mean, What was he picked? 17th overall, maybe 18th overall. How good do you have to be picked 17th, 18th on the offensive line, and the team just say, we're just going to cut you the very next year?
Yeah. It's bad, man. It's crazy. There's been a few of those, some high picks saying goodbye to him around the NFL. But with the Bears, and look, that's how bad things are for the Bears. And I thought the Bears might sneak in and claim some of the 49ers offensive linemen like Jason Poe. It's nice that he cleared that initial round of waivers, it looks like. But, and by the way, a lot is going to happen with the roster. We're recording this podcast a day early, getting away for the vacation. But getting back to week one, there's going to be so many storylines just right out of the gate for both of those teams, and especially the 49ers. Now, what if things go the other way and the 49ers play bad on the road and have a little hiccup to start the season? It's going to be like, oh my God, they made the wrong pick. Should have been Justin Fields and not Trey Lance. Let's start Jimmy Garoppolo, right? That thing is going to start out of the gate if the 49ers don't go up to Chicago and beat a team that they should beat on paper that's a worse football team. And so a lot is riding actually right out of the gate on week one for the 49ers and Trey Lance.
A lot is, but I just believe even with Trey Lance and early on, and I mean, we say that, right? And Trey Lance, and oh my gosh, and I was listening to a podcast and some guy said, man, what if, third quarter, you're playing the Bears team that you should just be really beating, and, it's a tie game third quarter. Like, how is Trey Lance going to be viewed, et cetera? And I'm like, well, that was kind of the situation last year with Jimmy Garoppolo. Matter of fact, 49ers going into the fourth quarter were losing to the Chicago Bears, who were not good. For everything that was going on around that organization, it was disastrous. 49ers were actually losing by, I believe, a point heading into the fourth quarter, and then they ran off with it in the fourth quarter and ended up winning. But it wasn't just this blowout. I expect the 49ers this year to be better just because I feel like the roster is better. But week one, that is the time where sometimes weird things happen, but it is pivotal for the 49ers to really kind of get out early and kind of impose their dominance on some of these teams that are, I don't want to say lesser than them, but on paper, the 49ers are in a better situation or better position.
And a little bit more difficult, I think, probably for some team and for the 49ers to game plan for the Bears, new coaching staff, both offense and defense. What's that going to look like? Probably a little bit more difficult. And it's going to be difficult for teams early in the season to prepare for the Trey Lance offense with the 49ers. They don't know exactly how that's going to look. So kind of an advantage for the Niners as well there. Week two is the Seattle Seahawks. And I think this one, the number one takeaway is that Jimmy Garoppolo is not going to be playing quarterback for the Seattle Seahawks, right? And it's going to be Geno Smith. And on paper, the 49ers should be 2-0. And I don't think that just because, you don't play the games on paper, but the way the season starts, they can have a little bit of a slow start, not be playing amazing before some really difficult opponents hit the schedule.
Yeah, that's another game right there where it's your home opener. You got to come home, you got to show up, and kind of get that monkey off your back. Obviously, Seattle Seahawks, it's not the Seahawks of old when you don't have Russell Wilson there. And you talked about the quarterback position there and with Geno Smith and Drew Lock. And I think they expected Drew Lock they said all the right things about the Drew Lock trade. Oh, we really liked him pre-draft, etc. Well, he just threw 3 interceptions in their last preseason game. He's not the guy starting. It's Geno Smith. Mm-hmm. And that should be a game right there. They got the injuries at the running back position. They have one running back retire on them. They have another one that's recovering from a hernia. Yeah, you got DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. Defensively, they have a lot of holes. They lost guys at the cornerback position. They had DJ Reed. He went to the New York Jets, got a big contract there. So young guys on the outside, I believe it's Kobe Bryant and the kid out of UTSA. They might have 2 rookie cornerbacks starting in that game. So 49ers, that's a game right there where, you on paper have a good opportunity to potentially jump out to a 2-0 record, which kind of was similar to last season. You played the Lions, you played the Eagles, you handled business. I think they have to do that again to start this season.
Yeah, and a nice storyline for the 49ers. It's the home opener. It's the new look Seattle Seahawks. And for the 49ers to be like, okay, we're the big brother now. Sorry, Seattle. And to really whoop up on them in the home opener, I think that'd be huge, especially for the morale of the team, for morale of the fan base. Even if week one doesn't go great, I think you could help a lot by really beating up on Seattle in the home opener in week two before some really important opponents here. And look, Russell Wilson, he's not in Seattle, but the Niners are going to see him the very next week in week 3 when they go to Denver to face the Denver Broncos. Then you've got the Los Angeles Rams coming up in week 4. So those are, those 2 weeks are going to be important to set yourself up. If you do lose a couple of games to really good teams in Denver and Los Angeles, you still want to be at 500 after 4 weeks at the minimum.
Yeah, and those 2 games against the Broncos and the Rams are primetime games. So everybody's going to be watching. All eyes will be on the 49ers and Trey Lance.
Huge, huge games Sunday night, Monday night there in weeks 3 and 4. So I feel pretty good about the 49ers' chances there in the competition early in the season. You want to have a nice 500 record. If you're better than 500, I think that's a home run start for the 49ers. And not the end of the world if you're under 500, but I think that's when prime time, national coverage, fan bases, right, might start to get a little bit worried if things don't go great there, especially after those first 4 games.
Can you win the games you're supposed to win, right? And I know wins aren't easy to come by in the NFL, but when you look at some of these other teams and kind of where they are as opposed to the 49ers who have Super Bowl aspirations, albeit obviously they have a young quarterback, Bears, Seahawks, 2 tough games against the Broncos and Rams, but then you follow that up week 5 and week 6 with the Panthers and the Falcons. Those 2 are games that the 49ers, and they are on the road, so that is a little tough. But those are games where, hey, we should be able to win the games that we're supposed to win. And you got to include Carolina, who I actually think has an underrated roster. I think they're good, and I think Baker Mayfield made them a little bit better. But Atlanta, too. You got to win those games. On the road, on the road.
Looking at the odds for the 49ers at BetOnline season totals, it's teetering between 9.5 and 10 wins all off season long for the 49ers. I like the 49ers to be a 10-win team this year. We'll see what that looks like when we continue this podcast the rest of the way. You want to bet on week 1? There's odds. There's odds through 16 weeks of the NFL season already up at BetOnline. Niners favored by 7. That is climbing, by the way, as well. It was 6.5, now 7. The 49ers are favorites on the road against the Chicago Bears at BetOnline, your number one source for all your pro and college football betting needs and sports information this season. Find all the latest football league developments, game matchups, news, storylines, including this year's opening week's games. BetOnline is also your continued source for sports wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. So, of course, you go to BetOnline to do your wagering, but you can get so much news and information for those bets at BetOnline as well. The fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite sports and events, not just NFL football, but college football, MLB, MMA, boxing, golf, you name it, they've got you covered at BetOnline. Get over to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action at BetOnline, where the game starts. Okay, Croc, looking here at week 5 of the NFL season. Feel pretty good about a 500 record. You've gotten through the early portion of the season, some big primetime games. Then you can start to rattle off some wins. You could start to look ahead and say, okay, this team is ready. We're here. We're in mid-season form. And between weeks 5 and week 9, where the bye week is, you've got the Carolina Panthers, the Atlanta Falcons. Those are 2 road games. Might lay over somewhere in the Eastern time zone there those weeks before you come back home and face the Kansas City Chiefs. So another fun 3-game stretch there because you go on the road and those are beatable teams. And the 49ers have done pretty well on those road trips, and they've had some holdovers on the East Coast. Carolina, Atlanta, and then back home against Kansas City. That's a big game there, week 7 against the Kansas City Chiefs. Another barometer after the week 3-4 Denver, LA matchups.
By the way, Kansas City don't look like they've lost a step. I watched that offense. Patrick Mahomes, he just looks special. And you know what? I have a takeaway because I hear a lot of people talk about Super Bowl window. Super Bowl window. You got to win now, Super Bowl window. When you have a really good quarterback, Super Bowl window is always open.
Oh, it's 20 years long. If the 49ers hit and they've got the coach quarterback combination, we've seen it time and time again. We've seen it with the 49ers in the past, right? Bill Walsh and Joe Montana. And then that even continued on to Steve Young when you have a Hall of Fame caliber quarterback. Now, you don't have to put that on Trey Lance to be a Hall of Fame caliber quarterback. As long as Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes are in Kansas City, they're going to be a good football team. They're going to be good for a very long time. And the 49ers, that's what you're hoping for. It's all about it in the NFL. When I talk about running backs don't matter, and there's some insignificant things that happen, and sometimes we freak out about small transactions and draft picks and this and that, it's all about the coach and the quarterback. If you've got coach and quarterback, that marriage set, you can be a really good football team and in the Super Bowl conversation for as long as those guys are together.
New England Patriots haven't been very good at drafting. And nobody cares because over 20 years they had this guy named Tom Brady and he kicked ass. So it didn't matter. They were always going to be some of the favorites. And I think that's the same with Kansas City. People are expecting some type of drop off because there is no Tyreek Hill. I don't think so. Patrick Mahomes, he looks like he's just cooking, looks great. Had a quote-unquote down year last year, but I don't know. It was still really good. The expectations for him just really high. I think it helps the 49ers to be playing Kansas City in San Francisco or Santa Clara. That's beneficial to the 49ers, but overall, that's going to be a tough game. And if you aspire to be that championship caliber team, you have to figure out a way to win those games. Can you make Patrick Mahomes uncomfortable? Can you stop their run game and potentially make them one-dimensional, even though everybody probably thinks, oh, they want to throw the ball. Okay, well, we're going to make them, and then we're going to be able to kind of, rally and corral from there. So that's a game that's going to be interesting when you take away Tyreek Hill and the threat that he posed to defenses. How will these defensive coordinators now kind of combat that? And I'm interested to see the game plan against Kansas City.
And Trey Lance wasn't around for that Super Bowl, but there's a lot of players that were around. And I think that game's going to be pretty important for the 49ers when they face the team they lost in the Super Bowl with the Kansas City Chiefs coming October 23rd to Levi's Stadium. And I don't want to pass over the Carolina Panthers and the Atlanta Falcons. And in fact, those are road games. It's a little bit of a trip. When you have a short week, Monday Night Football against the Rams to go to the East Coast to play the Carolina Panthers in week 5. So that's not an easy game. And I think the Panthers are actually going to be better than people are talking about right now. I like the Baker Mayfield chip on his shoulder. I think there is some talent on both sides of the ball on those Panthers rosters. The Atlanta Falcons, I think, are going to be vying for the number 1 pick in the NFL draft, but they've played the 49ers well in the Shanahan era as well. So you don't want to look over those teams, but those are winnable games too. And then after the Kansas City game, when you come back home, you go on the road. So both games against the Los Angeles Rams will be in the books in the first half of the season by week 8. And that Sunday, October 30th game at the Los Angeles Rams, again, if the 49ers are just winning the winnable games, and even if they're losing to the good teams that they're playing against, the best teams they're playing against, you should be a 500 team going into the bye week at the very least. I think it'd be disappointing if you're not a 500 team by the week 9 bye.
Right. And that's the goal. And I mean, I feel like they could be a game over 500. And you'd be comfortable with where you're at with Trey Lance and comfortable with the upcoming schedule as well.
It's a reminder that it's a difficult schedule for the 49ers. I mean, Rams twice. They're the Super Bowl champions, and they're a really good football team. The Kansas City Chiefs are going to be really good. We just did the AFC Power Rankings on the Peacock and Williamson show, and the Kansas City Chiefs are vying for either 1 or 2 in the NFL in those power rankings on everybody's lists. So Denver's going to be much improved. They're going to be a good football team. There's a lot of good teams on the schedule, but the 49ers can beat those teams too, because the 49ers are the good team on those teams' schedule as well, right? So if they're winning some of the tough games at home, even if they're losing them on the road, I mean, you could be 6-2 right now going into the bye after 8 weeks. But 500 is I think, the barometer for that week 9 bye. You got to be 500 or above for the 49ers to start really thinking you're going to make that run. And a lot, obviously, is how good does Trey Lance look the first half of the season? Week 10.
Hold on real quick.
Yeah.
I know you said how good Trey Lance looks. I'd say how good is the run game? How good is the defense? And that'll really help take some of the pressure off of Trey Lance early on while he's still figuring some things out.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah. So that's why the floor is so high for the 49ers, because if they've been doing what they're doing in the season that they've been good, you're playing defense, you're running the ball, you're going to have a chance to win all those games. And the Trey Lance slider is sort of, okay, Trey Lance is playing just okay, then the Niners record's going to be just okay. Trey Lance playing terrible, the 49ers might not have a good record. Trey Lance has arrived, is playing great, off the charts, right? Blowing through the ceiling. There's no limit to how good the 49ers could be. So that's what's going to be fun, is the sliding scale of where Trey Lance is at. And it might be week to week. Trey Lance might be like, oh, man, he looked awesome this week. And the next week he might be pulling your hair. I was like, oh, there's those rookie mistakes, right? The first-year starter mistakes that he's making. So that could go a lot of directions. But I think the baseline is so good for the 49ers. They should be in all those games. They should be competing, even if Trey Lance isn't exactly where you want him. And don't forget, they've won a lot of games when Jimmy Garoppolo wasn't necessarily playing at the highest possible level. That's the formula for the 49ers, right? Run the ball, play defense.
Run the ball.
That ain't going to change. Okay. Next, we'll get to the second half of the season here. We've got week 10 through week 18, how these teams look, how these opponents look, and how we think the 49ers are going to do here after 18 weeks of regular season 2022 football. I do want to thank everybody once again for making Locked On 49ers your first listen every day. Now for your second listen, go check out the Ultimate Pro Football Preview 2022. an 8-episode extravaganza to get you ready for the NFL season. The local team experts on the Locked On Podcast Network, plus a betting angle from Lee Sterling of Locked On Bets, all combining into one ultimate NFL preview. Search for Ultimate Pro Football Preview 2022 on your Odyssey app, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. All right, Croc, looking at the second half of the season, week 9 bye. You've got the Los Angeles Chargers coming to town, and this is a crazy, crazy part of the schedule because after the 49ers go on the road October 30th, week 8 at the Los Angeles Rams, and that's not a super long trip, obviously going down to LA. Week 9 bye, the 49ers have 5 straight home games. So the 49ers, after Halloween, essentially, from Halloween until December 15th, a month and a half, they don't have to travel at all. They don't have an away game. That's pretty crazy. Halloween to December 15th until they go to Seattle, no road game.
No, they do. They have one. The
Arizona
Cardinals.
I take that back. It's a home. They go to
Mexico.
They go to Mexico. So, I mean, that's a vacation W against the Arizona Cardinals. So that doesn't even count. Right? No, not that easy?
I don't think it's that easy.
Okay.
They have the quarterback that can make things challenging. Remember, it wasn't too long ago, 2020, 49ers coming off of a Super Bowl appearance, expectations sky high, 49ers playing at home against Arizona Cardinals. Arizona Cardinals win that game. Those are kind of moments I think people forget about. But you were fairly healthy. I don't think you had Debo. But aside from that, you had the George Kittle who, and this is not piling on Jimmy Garoppolo time, but he threw that high screen that got George Kittle chopped down. Remember that? Threw that inaccurate pass to the flats and almost got Kittle killed, and he had to play. Then remember, he had to miss some games after that because of that knee injury. But 49ers lost that game. So Arizona, I feel like they're never a gimme, but definitely the team right now, you got to go get them, right? Now, this is when we start to find out truly who the 49ers are. The Chargers game and the Arizona game, that's a big part of it.
That's a huge part of it. There's a lot of 49ers.
Hey, 1 second. This is also the part of the season where Arizona usually melts down. So facing them twice on the second half of the season, I think that bodes well for the 49ers.
I'd prefer to play Seattle early and LA and Arizona later. And they're playing the Rams early, but they are playing the Cardinals later because the Cardinals have had a tendency to implode late in seasons. And with LA, just the way their roster's built, sort of a stars and scrubsy sort of a roster, later in the season, they might have more injuries. And if someone like Aaron Donald or someone like Jalen Ramsey is banged up, or Matthew Stafford, then that's something that could really help any team that's playing against the Rams. Although Stafford's got that arm thing, so maybe you do want to play them a little bit earlier in the season.
Yeah. Or late when it's really aching.
And by the way, so going back to the Peacock and Williamson show, by the way, make sure you're checking out Peacock and Williamson every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network and numerous streaming platforms, Locked On NFL channel on YouTube. Check out Croc on Locked On NFL Draft as well. But in those power rankings, the Niners are playing two of the top 3 teams in those power rankings, and it's Kansas City and the Los Angeles Chargers. They come in at number 3 on those power rankings, and the Chargers are a really good football team. They didn't make the playoffs last year, but they could also be a juggernaut. They've got, and we've talked about coach quarterback. Do they have the coach thing figured out? Because I think, Justin Herbert's obviously a star, an ascending star, and could be in that Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes territory starting this year.
Their coach does some weird things that I think contributes to losses. Their team is loaded. I would have rather played them early because there wouldn't be any J.C. Jackson out there. But at this point, and obviously we'll see health-wise where they're at, but they look to be a good team. One of the better rosters in the league. By
the way, against the Chargers is another Sunday nighter for the 49ers, another prime time game, Sunday, November 13th. They still are home for 3 weeks, though, before that Mexico game, November 21st, against the Arizona Cardinals. Then they come back and they host 3 more home games after Mexico. It's the New Orleans Saints, the Miami Dolphins, and Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And that is then we're deep into December. But those are tough games because I don't know what Arizona is going to look like in week 11. I really don't have a good feel for the New Orleans Saints. I'm not super excited about what they're going to look like. I really feel like Jameis Winston at some point is going to implode and throw 9 interceptions. So maybe it's against the 49ers when that happens for the Saints, but they'll be a competitive team, and they do have a pretty good roster as well. And the Miami Dolphins, the revenge game for numerous people on that Miami Dolphins roster, including their head coach in Mike McDaniel.
Mike McDaniel returns back to the Bay Area, but a lot of team speed, and that's a team that can kind of get you. They can get you with that speed. It just makes everything uncomfortable.
I saw Raheem Mostert in the preseason ripping off that classic run. It's like, dang, dude, the dude is still fast. If he can stay healthy, he's scary. Like, he's the best back in Miami when he's healthy in the McDaniels run game. I mean,
if he could play, and it's a huge if, but if he could play 15 games, how many yards does he run for? I mean, I would not be shocked at all if you look up and it's like 1,400 yards for Raheem Mostert. Like, yeah, he's that special of a back. Seriously. He just never could play for that long.
Oh, he's never been able to carry the load. But if he did, I mean, the dude's he's like a 6 yard per carry back in the NFL. It's crazy.
Crazy.
And then Tyreek Hill, I've loved what I've seen in the preseason of Tyreek Hill. There hasn't been a lot of it, but Tua's not Patrick Mahomes, but he's an NFL quarterback. And even when the pass isn't perfect, Tyreek Hill can do so much himself. He's so good at tracking the ball in the air, making plays, even though he's not a big receiver. He can go pull it down. And just seeing him create, and then you got Waddle on the other side, all that team speed. I don't know what to expect from Miami. They've got some good players on defense as well. They could be great. Maybe they'll have some hiccups in year one with a new head coach. Maybe Tua's just awful. Who knows? But I really don't know what to expect from Miami, but they could be pretty darn good.
Yeah. Again, speed makes people uncomfortable.
Good chance the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are pretty darn good if Tom Brady's still healthy and playing in December when the Tampa Bay Buccaneers visit the 49ers on some Sunday, December 11th in Week 14. Then here's the final home stretch for the 49ers season, the last 4 weeks, Week 15 through 18. And at this point in the season, you expect an over 500 team that is vying for a playoff spot. And this is where they can slam the door or kick the door wide open, as it might be.
Or, my bad, and not to cut you off, but or maybe they are 500 and they need these games to get over that hump. Right?
Yeah.
Because if you got 4 games left, so we're talking about, I don't even know if that's possible because they play 17 games, so you can't be 500. But let's say they're a game below 500.
Under, game
Seahawks,
under 500.
Washington, Raiders, Cards. I feel like with that stretch, and again, you'll find out more about where these teams are, but you got a good shot.
Even if the 49ers are in a spot where they have to win out, they have to go 4-0 to finish the season. I think they can do that against this schedule. And no games are a gimme. We're playing these games out on paper. We don't know. Every game is weird. The ball bounce is funny. Have no idea injuries for all these teams, including the 49ers, how things are going to go. But even if you're under 500 and you're the 49ers and you're just kind of coming together late in the season and figuring things out and keeping games close, you go Week 15, December 15th at Seattle. Then you are hosting the Washington Commanders in Week 16. On the road, New Year's Day at the Las Vegas Raiders. Don't do anything stupid. Both fans and players that weekend, that New Year's Eve, that's a wild game.
I wanted to go to that game, but
I won't be anywhere near the entire state of Nevada for that game. Like that is a vibe that could go any direction. Bad things could happen. And
my wife's a Raider fan.
Oh, really? I did not know that.
Yeah, she's a Raider fan. And obviously,
Are you gonna? Because I know you're gonna be at a lot of road games. Are you gonna go to that?
If we go, because we like to do things for New Year's Eve, and we've done Reno a few times. We've done the snow. But that might be our New Year's trip, and maybe we go and have fun in Vegas and watch the game at like a bar.
Okay. Yeah. And there's going to be a lot of 49ers fans there. That's going to be a scene. New Year's, Las Vegas, 49ers, Raiders. Yeah. And then the finale of the regular season in 2022 is, again, the Arizona Cardinals. And which will likely be a prime timer or not.
Yeah, I think that'd be a prime time game.
That might be a primetime playing game potentially for the 49ers. So look, even if the 49ers struggle this season, I like the way it ends. No gimmies. It's always tough in Seattle. No idea how that New Year's Day game is going to go. Are the Wentz-led Washington Commanders great? I don't think they will be. How will the Arizona Cardinals be playing late in the season? It's going to be the same old story where they're kind of imploding to end the year. Tons of storylines, tons of great games. This is going to be a really good competitive 49ers team. Do they become a great team? Do they become a scary team with Trey Lance at quarterback this year? Is there a lot of struggles for the 49ers this year? But in the end, I see a playoff team, and I think that 9.5, 10 win, I think I'd take that 10 wins for the 49ers. I think they'll get there, and I think they'll be in the playoffs.
I think they'll be a playoff team with Trey Lance at quarterback. Let's go.
Yep. And let's hope he doesn't get hurt. Like the more,
why even say that, Peacock?
The more, well, I'm just saying the more. First of all, I don't believe in that, and I don't think I had that kind of power, even though I'm knock on wood just for you guys who are listening, watching the pod. The more Garoppolo plays, the worse it is kind of for the 49ers, even though they could win a lot of games, right? But you hope there's no, like yanking Trey in and out of games kind of thing. You hope
Dolphins with Tua, and Tua has recovered well from that, because a lot of people thought, like, man, this is going to ruin the kid. Whenever they got in a tight situation, it's like, all right, Tua, you come out. Fitzpatrick, you go in. And now it's almost like a foregone conclusion, like that never happened. And it's Tua's team. People, there are a lot of eyes on Tua and what it's going to look like this year. And they're like, look, you got a lot of weapons. It's year 3, year 4, whatever it is. So, the expectation is going to be high, but he made it out of that situation early on in his career where in random scenarios, he was getting pulled out of games.
If Jimmy G plays, it's almost better if he plays because Trey Lance got hurt.
Right.
In a way, right? Which is kind of weird. So if it's not a devastating injury or something to Trey Lance.
Trey's going to be fine, man.
Trey's going to be fine. Niners going to be fine. Niners going to be a good team. Niners going to be a fun team this year. And this is a really neat schedule because there's so many good teams on the schedule. And there's a lot of barometer games. Where are the 49ers at when they're playing the Chargers, when they're playing the Rams, when they're playing even, in the division, the Seahawks and the Cardinals as well. So, fun season ahead for the San Francisco 49ers. And, of course, Croc and I will have it covered for you every step of the way, every day, right here, Locked On 49ers.